Okay, so for my FMP this year, last year I did a podcast in the end about football, and this year I'm also going with the football theme. So I'm planning on doing a big quiz show basically. So I haven't really come up with a name, but I've come up with all things football this year at least, basically for now. So why am I doing this? Unlike, I know a lot of other projects that I've at least sat in and heard about have like meanings to them. Mine doesn't really have a meaning, no deeper meaning, no story to it. Essentially it's something I'm passionate about, something that I take interest in and care about. It's when I'm at home I spend a lot of time either like listening to music, but I'm usually on Twitter talking about football, or listening or watching to football if I can. Obviously, it's always quite hard to find places to watch it, but I can usually find something. So in short, it's basically something I'm passionate about, something I actually care about and want to put a lot of effort into, rather than making something with like a meaning, but that I don't really care for. So what is my idea? My idea is essentially a big quiz show where I'll have 2 teams of 3, all people that are like interested in football, and there'll be 5 rounds to my quiz, and at the end whoever has the most points will get a trophy or something like that to show that they've won. So it'll all be based on like football over the last season, mainly from like Europe's top 5 leagues, so that would be Premier League, Ligue 1, Serie A, La Liga and Bundesliga. But there'll also be little bits and pieces from other leagues as well to try and... But it'll all be based on this season rather than over multiple years. So with the season coming to a close, it kind of rounds it off nicely. So I've kind of come up with this kind of like table. So about the different rounds. So round 1 would be like a general knowledge round. Each team would receive 10 questions, and I've been working on this weekend and I've got some questions ready, so I've got around 10 ready at the moment. So we would have, one team would receive 1 question from the host, which would probably be me, and I would ask that team the question. They'd have amount of time to guess the answer. This would be, they could discuss, they could confer and everything, and then they'd have to give an answer as a team. If they get the answer right, they'll get 1 point, and if they get it wrong, it will go over to the other team where they will have a chance to steal, and if they steal, they get the point instead. If they don't, no one gets the point. And then after that, it would go to the other team and back and forth until all teams had 10 questions. If it ended in a draw, I have 5 backup questions, like for tiebreakers. So then it would be on the buzzer. Whoever buzzes in first, no conferring, they just have to give an answer. If they get it wrong, we move on to the next question. And whoever ends that round with the most points overall would get 1 big point for their team. Round 2 would be, I'm calling that round transfer market. So that would be all based on transfers from football teams over the last year. So I would have 5 rounds for this, because this round could take a little bit longer, so I don't want too many questions. And it would be on the buzzer, so it would be a team game, so it's not like one to another, you're buzzing in against the other team. So for round 1 would be their first transfer, but like only their first bunch if they've had quite a lot of transfers. So say we were using Wayne Rooney, we would have Everton to Manchester United. If you got it after that round, you would get 3 points. If you don't get it, it would move on to the second clue, which would be his second batch transfers or second transfer. So if this was still Wayne Rooney, it would be then Manchester United back to Everton. And if you get it after that, it would be 2 points. And then the final one, round 3, would be worth 1 point, and it would be his latest transfer, which would have been within the last 2 transfer windows. So the summer leading into this season and the winter transfer window, the January transfer window. So for Wayne Rooney, this would be Everton to DC United, and then by that point hopefully someone should have got it, and it would be when you get the answer right, it would be corresponding to the amount of points. So get it round 1, it would be 3, round 2 would be 2, round 3 it would be 1 point. Whoever has the most points at the end would get the big point once again. And I have one backup, well, one extra one, which I've tried to make a little bit easier. So it's like, if it's been a draw after the first 5 rounds, it would be someone should get it rather than needing to go through multiple other ones. For round 3, we'd take it outside. So rather than it just being a full-on quiz show, we'd also have an actual aspect of football to it. So in this round we'd be going out and we're doing a crossbar challenge. I have a couple of locations in mind for this, which we'll get onto in the next slide. So with crossbar challenge, it's pretty self-explanatory. Each team will have 10 shots as a team. Each player in the team will get 3 shots at the crossbar. Every time you hit the crossbar, you get a point. And then with the 10th shot, the team captain will get to choose one member of the team, whether it's themselves or one of the 2 participants on their team, to have the final shot, and the final one attempt to hit it. And if scores are level, we'll just keep going, and whoever hits it first will get the win. So whoever wins that will get the 3rd big point. Round 4, we're back into the studio, which is we'll get into next with the locations. So this is against the clock. So I think I put 1 minute 30 seconds. So do 1 minute 30 on the clock, and it would basically just be quick. So the team captain would nominate someone of their team, themselves or either of the 2, to come up and sit where the host would sit, and they have a bunch of question cards basically, and it's just quick fire questions. So who won the Premier League this season? Man City, Liverpool, whoever ends up winning it next weekend. Team would have to answer, and it would be however many questions you can get right in 1 minute 30 seconds. So one team would do that, then after they'd done it, next team would do that, and they'd have a separate set of questions. So I've started getting some questions ready for that, but I'll need quite a few for that. These are more, in the general knowledge round, the questions will be more in depth. So maybe trying to name the 2 goalkeepers that have assists in the Prem this season, something like that. Whereas this would just be simple, quick questions. Who's top scorer in this league? Who has most assists in this league? Like that. So it's just quick, get it out, get your answer out quickly, move on. I think they have a round kind of like that on. They have a round kind of like that on Question of Sport, but it's the team captain goes up and he sees like a thing and he has to, kind of like charades or charades, however you want to say it. They have a round like that on Question of Sport. It would kind of like that, but a little different. So after the 1 minute 30 for each team, if they were level, which is unlikely, but if they were, there would be another 30 seconds where I would ask questions, and it would just be on the buzzer. Whoever gets most points from that would end up with the big point. And then for round 5, we'd be back outside to add another element of actually playing football rather than it just being questions about football. Because I was thinking, with the teams, I would have someone that I'd say is very knowledgeable, someone who's a little less knowledgeable, and someone that doesn't know very much for each side. So it would be you'd have different levels of knowing things, plus that's probably easier for me to also get, because I know people that are passionate about football. I know people that have said that they'd quite like to do this but don't know a lot about football, so it kind of works. And if we have outside elements where it is just like kicking a football, they can also get involved more in that aspect. So this would just be a penalty shootout like crossbar challenge. Each team would have 10 shots, 3 for each member of the team, and the 10th being decided by the team captain. I would be in goals, just makes it easier, and rather than it being someone from each team getting nominated, just put me in goals, whatever. because I'm kind of used to playing goals. Well, I used to play as a striker when I played in school, but then I kind of switched to playing in goals. So once again, if it's tied after the 10 shots each, it would go down like a normal penalty shootout, so each team would take one in turn. If the first player misses and the second player scores from the other team, then they'd win. So it's basically first take the advantage, and then they would get the final big point and would get the trophy if they won. So whoever has the most big points at the end would get like a trophy or a belt, something like that. As for locations, I've got two main locations. So the first, because I've got two main areas, I've got outside playing football, I've got inside doing a quiz show. So for the quiz show, I was hoping to use in here. I think this room is better than the other room to be filming in, and I think the audio quality in here is much better, because when you're in there you have the noise from outside, the noise from studio, like the drama studio, you have the toilets, you have the blow dryers, which you can turn off, but some people know how to turn them back on, which is annoying. So I prefer it in here. This is where I filmed my FMP last year, and I thought the audio quality was fairly good. So this would be round 1, 2 and 4 that we'd film in here, and we basically have a set of tables, say, on this side of the room, a set of tables on this side of the room, and the main, like where I'd sit would be like here hosting. And I'd plan to use 3 cameras, so I'd have a camera that was set up for like so you could see me, set up so you can see that team, and set up so you can see that team, and like that basically. I don't think there's anything else I need to say about that one. So for the outside locations, I have one really ideal